Welcome to these next set of notes. Make sure that you have paper and pencil out ready to copy in order for you to understand and be able to do your worksheet, right? So here we go. So first thing that we always do is we identify the name of these notes, and they are called Pythagorean Theorem, right? So the Pythagorean Theorem says that in a right triangle, the square of the long side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. And this is what it looks like right here. It was pretty much saying. So if you take a square of the long side of a right triangle, remember it's key that it's got to be right. So it's got to have that right angle there, that little square. That if you take a square of the big side, it equals to the square of the other two sides added together. See? That's why this green here is a squared plus purple b squared is equal to the red c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem, right? One more thing is the long side is called the hypotenuse. So they call the long side the hypotenuse. So whichever side is the longest in the triangle, which in this case is C, that is what they call the hypotenuse, or H, right? So the hypotenuse, whenever I refer to the hypotenuse, I refer to C, the longest side of the triangle, of the right triangle. Remember, it's got to be a right triangle with 90 degrees, right? We know that a right triangle has to have one 90-degree angle. So the Pythagorean theorem applies to a right triangle. That's why it says, a right angle triangle. Right triangle. So let us see how we are going to use this a squared plus b squared equals c squared theorem in use, how we're going to use it to do this work. All right? So first thing we do, of course, we already know, is we read the instructions. And the instructions say find the missing side of each triangle, round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. Okay, round your answer to the nearest tenth as necessary. So the first thing we're going to do, everybody, and let's go with the colors that they have here, is we're going to find C. We're going to find the hypotenuse. We're going to find the longest side, right? We're going to find C, the longest side. Now, if there are no numbers, right, you can't know. If you don't have all three numbers, all three sides, you can't compare to see what is the longest side, right? But what's cool about this is that the longest side is always across from the 90. You see the 90? It goes right across. So let's find the 90 degree here, which is, there's the 90, right? Identified by a little square. And the hypotenuse C is always across from the 90. So this is C right here. Okay. Now A and B, green and purple, can be either this can be green or that can be green. But in this case, let us make this green. So I'm going to make this A. And sticking with the colors, I'm going to make this B. So I am going to go with this formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Now all we have to do is substitute. What is X? What is A? A is X, right? So I'm going to say X squared plus what is B? B is 15.9. 15.9 squared, right? And equals to what is C? C is 17.4 squared. 17.4 squared, just like that. All right. So from here, I'm trying to get X by itself here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this 15.9 squared. So I'm going to say move it over, and I'm going to bring 15.9 squared over that way. Now, what I have left is this. I have x squared on that side, and I have 17.4 squared minus 15.9 squared, just like that. Now, to get rid of this squared, right, to this square, we know that the opposite of squaring something is square rooting. So I'm going to cross that out, and then I'm going to square root on that side. So now, kiddos, this is what I have to put into the calculator. Square root of 17.4 squared minus 15.9 squared. So I'm going to use my calculator. Square root of 17.4 squared, a to the 2 here, right? Plus 15, no, not plus, minus 15.9 squared, right? Squared, and that gives me 7.06, right? 7.06. So this says round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to be left with here, x is equal to 7.06. My tenths place is 0. So that means that 6 is going to tell 0 what to do, and it's going to tell it to go up to a 7.1. Right? Because 6 is bigger than 5, right? If it was 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, it would have told 0 to stay. But since it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, it's going to tell 0 to go up to 1. Now, in this case, we're dealing with miles. So this is 7.1 miles. And that is our solution right there. Look at that. We found x, 7.1 miles. Right? That's perfect. Perfectly done. Again, the key was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Always identify c first. All right? Let's go with our second example here. What did we say? Identify c first, right? So we find our right angle, which is 90 degrees, and we go straight across, which is a crooked line there, and we identify c. That is c. Then we identify a and b. I'm going to make a this one this time, and I'm going to make b the one here on the left. A and B, it doesn't really matter which one you pick, A and B. The important one to identify is C, right? Then we use our formula, which we know is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now let us substitute for a, b, and c, right? A is 8.2, so I'm going to say 8.2 squared plus b is 13.9. 13.9 squared is equal to c, which is x, is equal to x squared, right? So I want to solve for x. I want to get this x by itself, so I got to move that square, right? So boom, look at that. I cross it out. But I got to move it over to the other side, but the opposite of squaring is square rooting, right? The opposite of squaring is square rooting. Look at that. I don't have to move any numbers over. I already have all of these together right there. So I'm going to use my calculator, right? So I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to say square root of 8.2 squared plus 13.9 squared. Let me make sure that I got that right. 8.2 squared plus 13.9 squared gives me 16.13. So I get 16.13 is equal to x. The 1 is in my tens place. This 3 is going to tell my 1 what to do, is going to tell it to stay exactly where it's at. So x is equal to 16.1, and we're dealing with feet here, so we're going to say 16.1 feet. Boom, look at that. There you go. That is our second example. We have found x. X is 16.1 feet from here to here is 16.1 feet, right? And again, we found it with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Find the hypotenuse first. The hypotenuse is the longest side. It is c across from the 90-degree angle. There you go. Look at that. Those are the two examples for the first kind of problem you're going to have. Okay? Second kind of problem you're going to have in your assignment is here. It says state if each triangle is a right triangle. Okay? So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify our right angle, which we do not have a right angle. This looks like it's the right angle right there, right? But there's no square there. We can't assume that's the right angle. See? Here, they give us the right angle. They give us the little box. They give us the little box. Here, we can't assume the little box is there. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the biggest number of all three, which is 35. So that means that that is C. This is C. And then A and B, again, it doesn't matter which is A. I'm going to call that A, and I'm going to call this bottom one B. Right? So again, we use the formula that we know, right? A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Well, I'm going to fill it. Look, I got numbers for A, B, and C. Okay? A is 24, so I'm going to say 24 squared. Plus B is 18 squared. C is 35 squared. Okay, so what do I get from these two right here? Well, let's use our calculator. Let's see. What is it? 24 squared plus 18 squared. 24 squared plus 18 squared gives me what? 758. Oh, no. 18 squared is 900. 24 squared plus 18 squared. 24 plus 18 squared is 900. So I get 900 right there. Equals, on this side, 35 squared. So let us clear that and let's do 35 squared, and that gives me 1225. So I get 1225. Now, you tell me, kiddos, is this true? Is 900 equals to 1,225? Hell no, it is. It is not the same. These are not equal, right? 900 is not equal to 1225. So this, kiddos, does not represent a right triangle. The answer is no. Not a right triangle. Not a right triangle. Actually, you know what? Let's take a shortcut. I want to be lazy like all mathematicians are. Not a right triangle, right? Because this is not equal. 900 is not equal to 1225. So these numbers do not represent a right triangle, right? And this question state if a triangle, if each triangle is a right triangle. This is no. The answer is no. So let's try this next one here. Again, let me identify my C first, right? Which is my longest side. So I got 23, 18.4, 13.8. This is definitely C right here. Okay, A and B, I'm going to call this A, and then I'm going to call this B right here. All right, so I know that I'm going to do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared, right? So my A is 13.8, all right? 13.8 squared. My B is 18.4 squared. 18.4 squared is equal to my C is 23 squared. 23 squared. All right, so let us do these two first. 13.8 squared plus 18.4 squared. I'm going to let my calculator do all the work. So 13.8 squared, 18.4 squared. 13.8, 8, really? Squared plus, what is it? 18.4 squared. 18.4 5.4 squared, that gave me 529. All right, so these two gave me 529. Now, 23 squared, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to hit enter. 23 squared, oh, look at that, 529, 529. So this is 529. So this indeed, 529 is equal to 529. This is absolutely true, right? This is absolutely true for sure. So does this represent a right triangle? Absolutely it does. The answer here is yes. This is a right triangle. Look at that. Yes, this is a right triangle. And there you go. That's how you do the second group of questions in your assignment. And I spelled right wrong here. You guys are probably going to catch that, right? All right. So, and there we are, kiddos. This is how we use the Pythagorean theorem to do our work. This is pretty much in the nutshell, right? The key is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? See, in each one of these examples, I use a squared plus b squared is equals to c squared. C is the longest side. C is across from the 90. Look at that. But if you don't have a 90, C is the biggest side of the three. All right? Make sure you took good notes. Make sure you rewind and hit rewatch if you're not sure about your answers. Thank you guys for being here. See you next time.